Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Rex Rogosh, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Third vandalism hits South Florida Rainbow Crosswalk. In Delray Beach, Florida, police are investigating yet another act of vandalism at a prominent LGBTQ pride mural, the third attack since the intersection was first painted in 2021. Security footage released by Delray Beach Police shows a black pickup truck deliberately performing burnouts on the rainbow-painted intersection at Northeast 1st Street and 2nd Avenue. The driver is seen returning to the intersection not once, but twice on June 17th, leaving dark tire marks across the Pride mural. The act occurred squarely in the middle of Pride Month. Officers say the vehicle's license plate was not clearly visible in the footage, and they are still working to identify the driver. The first attack ever was on the very day it was unveiled in 2021. Alexander Jarek was arrested for similar damage and later ordered to pay $7,000 in restitution. In February 2024, Dylan Brewer faced the same consequences for another act of vandalism. The timing is also notable. The incident came just days before Atlanta police charged 4 people with hate crimes for cutting up rainbow flags at another rainbow intersection. It also happened just weeks before U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy publicly attacked rainbow crosswalks, calling them distractions to drivers. Advocates are calling on authorities to treat these repeated attacks as hate crimes and not just property damage. As the investigation continues, the LGBTQ community in Florida hopes for stronger protections for public pride art and for queer visibility in shared spaces. I mean, the comments at the national level that are coming down from the transportation, about rainbow crosswalks are dangerous, they distract drivers. I mean, one, it actually makes people slow down. I mean, there's like things that, crosswalks are supposed to do. They're supposed to make people slow down, make people stop. So they're not a distraction. They're actually a safety. Most crosswalks need to be more visible in general. So this is even more proof that, they are not a distraction. When we're putting blinking bright up lights on crosswalks, that can't be any more distracting than rainbow. So it's not at all about the distracting drivers. It's about them, throwing out yet another thing, going, oh, rainbow this, rainbow that, and just another way to kind of distract from what's really going on.
They're just trying to justify their hate for LGBTQ plus people. It's just another way for them to justify their exclusion of Americans, of people that they disagree with, people that they're taught to hate, people that they see, they're probably secretly gay themselves. There are so many in the closet people, we've talked about this before. There are people out there that they have such an intense hatred and distaste for gay people because they secretly are themselves. And this is the reason why Florida can't have nice things, because, we put beautiful things out there like a crosswalk and people want to do burnouts on it. It's really shameful. I think I saw in the news that these are young men. These are young men that need to be educated. These are young men that need to be in school. They need to be working. They need to be contributing to society. But instead they're doing these crazy things on public roads. I mean, they have nothing better to do with their time than to just, do, crazy stunts on crosswalks. I mean, it's the definition of the sickness that's happening in this country.
I often wonder, though, you bring up a good point. I've had conversations with people who, if I'm just sitting there and not typically looking gay, they treat me one way until I do say gay. So I often wonder if, you say that they, it's distracting. They're trying to distract from people that they hate, right? And I don't think I have to wonder if it's not the person they hate. It's the fact that they're being told they need to talk about hating gays, or they because you said they're closet, they're probably closet cases,
Sure.
which is probably the case too.
Sure.
So it's not the fact that they hate gays. It's the fact that they're trying to deflect from themselves so that they can't be clocked themselves, or something else that is glaringly obvious about them that is even a bigger subject. So they're going to say, oh, gay. So it's more about deflection for the general public. And you also bring up a good point. That it's typically younger people doing these destructive, burnouts and whatnot. And all I see is a small child who wants attention.
And I think they're trying to score points in their community. They want to be able to tell their friends or their church community or their hate group that they're
bros.
They're bros. They want to be able to say, yeah, bro, look what I did. It's on the news tonight. Check out Channel 10 or Channel 4, whatever. You're going to see I did this thing at that crosswalk. Those gay people, ha ha ha.
Right.
They think it's so funny, but really they're the ones that look really ignorant. They're the ones that look really destructive. Educated people don't think that they're heroes. They think that they're really hateful.
Well, I think regardless of the intention of whatever they did it, I think the not being tolerant of it is so important.
Agreed.
To consider it as a hate crime, that it's important for our communities to stick together. The fact that Delray would create this crosswalk to create unity and normalize, that LGBTQ is part of society today. I think it's really important for us to take a stand and make sure that people understand that it is a hate crime, and whether they mean it to be or not. Because what it does condone for other people who have those tendencies to act out. And if we, someone said something to me really, that always stuck with me. It's not okay not to be racist or prejudiced. You have to be anti-racist or prejudiced, because if you're not taking a stand, if you're not stepping up, then nothing else, no one grows, nothing else happens.
I agree with what you're saying. At the bigger level, I have to wonder though, when you put out such a big LGBTQ sign like a crosswalk, a beautiful crosswalk like that, I have to wonder though, are you inviting that kind of hatred and bigotry and vandalism and destruction? Did they not think that that was going to happen, especially in the climate in which we're living in? I'm not saying that it makes it right, and I'm not saying that it's correct to do those things. I just have to ask myself, could they have put something on there, a finish or a sheen or something that would have prevented the burn, something, because, there are so many hateful people in Florida. We are the epicenter for Trump. He lives 45 miles north of here. This is the MAGA country that, people are living in. This is the epicenter of that. So
I applaud, Delray Beach for doing what they did. I also have to say, there's been pushback, or propositions to enforce not allowing communities to fly our flag in the communities and impact, funding. So I think it's important we keep doing what we're doing. I would say certainly there's a big expense. I'm very involved in my community government, so I know there's an expense, but I hope that Delray Beach adjusts or can supplement their security cameras. It's a big topic that we look at here in Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manors. I'm very much involved in some initiatives there. And, when you see things on our news, aside from this, where something tragic happens with a vehicle or destruction, in this case, vandalism, that, it seems that too often license plates aren't read, and it's sort of like right out there. And I know that, there may be a lack of funding. Maybe people are dragging their feet and they're saying, well, I'm not going to approve a cost, because it can cost tens of thousands of dollars to probably put up one security camera.
I just, it's hard for me because running, going slow through a red light, and that camera caught my license plate. If you're going to do a LGBTQ walkway, you need to expect that. Yeah. But I do think, to your point, is inviting. I think we need to continue to push for these things because it will normalize, in our society that these things are a part of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think two things can be true at once. I think we need to normalize the fact that we're here, we exist, we're not going anywhere. And also at the same time know that they're not going anywhere either. And know that you're going to invite these crazy people out of the woodwork when you show your pride. And to know that, okay, we can't put an extra layer of paint down, of clear paint that's going to prevent these burnouts on the road, then put extra security camera that's going to be able to read license plates if you destroy the property, something that's going to protect that.
The most amazing thing is 20 years ago, you'd never see the sidewalk anywhere.
No.
But now
You know,
you do, yeah.
And today we have these opportunities, and I think again, it's so important for us to defend them and to really make sure that we see these for what they are. I mean, right in the middle of Pride, it's, you know, they're definitely taking a shot, and it is a hate crime. So hopefully,
Yeah. I mean, Pride's just not a month; it's all year long. And you know, like they used to say, do the crime, do the time. So you know, we hope that they get caught and their actions get the right consequences.
Absolutely.
And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.